the ability of people in the public eye, whether it's CEOs or other, to endorse either candidate, and whether it's worth it. For you, you've got all the Jets fans you need to worry about.
Yeah.
I would imagine, and you've been a Trump supporter all the way back to, you've known him your whole life. You have had to deal with stigma by being a Trump supporter, have you not, over time?
I guess I have, but I haven't noticed it really. Surprisingly, I mean, I've thought about it, but it's never really the players, the people don't, go on the other side of the street.
Maybe you don't travel in the circles where that would happen, but now we're hearing that many CEOs are afraid to endorse Kamala Harris because if Trump is elected, they're going to face some type of reprisal from Trump.
I've heard that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. But I think the other is just as powerful. That there are people you'd have to be insane as a CEO to endorse Trump.
Probably as a CEO,
you'd lose half your customers if you endorse Trump.
I think as CEO of a major company now, you probably want to stay neutral.
Can I ask a question, though, about this? No.
Yeah.
So I think when you talk to people, at least privately, and they don't want to come on TV and talk about it, they would say it's an asymmetric risk. They would say if there's a possibility of retribution, it would come from Trump, and it wouldn't come from her. So, for example, do you believe that you were targeted while Biden has been the president on an individual basis, not because he likes higher taxes or whatever you think he likes or doesn't like about the business community, but do you believe that you have been fundamentally targeted as a owner of the Jets or any of your other business interests because you have been involved with we're involved as a supporter with Trump? Do you see what I'm saying?
No.
Right.
I don't feel it. No,
but,
really.
But you would say that, I think you would agree that Jeff Bezos was targeted actively by Trump, publicly so. He actually said it because he didn't like what was going on at the Washington Post and therefore said, I'm going to go after Amazon and I'm going to deal with the post office to make it more expensive for them. Like, you heard that, right? I mean, I'm not.
Well, I think a lot of this.
We're not mincing words about what happened. And so people see that, where they see the DeSantis situation in Florida. How do you react to that?
Well, you think Trump didn't do the DeSantis?
I understand. Yeah. So we'll take DeSantis off.
Another Republican.
I think if you're running
another bad guy.
If
you're running a major company, you probably want to stay neutral. Or go with Trump. No, but because you're representing a broad base, you're making products. If you're Bezos and so on. But to the extent that Bezos happens to be, he owns a major publication, the Washington Post, and so. You really can't stay away. I mean, I don't know if that was a good move or a bad move, but it's certainly a political move. It's a dangerous political move, I think.
As far as we've heard economic plans, and the Harris campaign will cite, Nobel laureates, they'll cite Goldman Sachs, they'll cite other studies that show that inflation would be worse under Trump. The deficit is estimated by that nonpartisan group. If all the tariffs were to go into effect, that the deficit inflation would be worse. Why do you support Trump if all those things are true?
Well, I think inflation is going to go down dramatically.
Why? With the tariffs?
Well, this country runs on energy, number one. I mean, it's always been an energy-based economy,
right?
Where we have jobs and the factories and all that. It's getting less a little bit, but we're relying on energy, and to the extent that energy is involved in everything we do, everything we make, everything we consume, lowering energy prices, which I think he will do. He says he's going to do, and he can do it by having a mandate to focus on the production of energy and the exportation of energy, and
maybe removing some. Although we're at record levels already.
Yeah, but we're probably going to double the energy need in the next 10 years. And Pennsylvania, for example, is a gigantic store of natural gas and a lot of other things. So,
how about the tariffs? Do you think you hear both sides say either they don't really mean what they're going to do, or it's just a negotiating tool? You think that's a negotiating tool you don't think there'd be across the board tariffs, or would that be a problem?
I think you had Howard Lutnick on the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if your audience will remember what he said, but I thought he made some pretty clear comments about what tariffs can and can't do. And so tariffs, I think, are a tool for sure to help get fair and balanced trade. There's no such thing as free trade, but it's fair and balanced, and reduce restrictions. He was talking about, South Korea We made an agriculture versus car deal. They would sell us cars, we'd sell them products. And then they reneged on the agricultural part because their standards were different than our standards, which is true. We're not on the world standard for food, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we can get there if we want.
Do you think that tariffs would bring in enough money to replace taxes, the tax system at this point?
I'm not sure that I would look at it maybe that way. I would look at it more in terms of what we're trying to accomplish as a country, even though
A tool.
a tool, right, to get necessarily jobs, factory jobs, other jobs back here, rather than exporting jobs just for cheap labor.
Right.
We constantly talk about, and we constantly talk about character.
I wasn't even going to go there. I just wanted to ask him.
You don't want to go to character with Trump? Well, you've known him for how long?
An economic question.
I met him in 1981.
Is he just a horrible, horrible character, unethical,
I've
stiffs all of the companies he works
He's
with?
Exactly the person that he was in 1981.
But did he do those things, by the way?
Pardon?
Did he do those things?
Do what things?
Stiff the contractors.
I think New York developers, it's a rough business, and you can look at various parts of what they do, but it's a dog-eat-dog business, like any business.
Right. And what about the women? What about some of the comments that he's made publicly on tapes? How do you feel about that?
I think that, all of my friends have weaknesses. In particular, my really good friends have more weaknesses, maybe, because you see them better. But you like them because they have those strengths, and he's unique. He's a unique person. I mean, there's nobody else that I've ever seen. Maybe Elvis Presley or somebody like that. And he says, "I don't have a guitar, and I'm not, I don't have anything. All I do is I get up behind 100,000 people."
You've seen him pay for people's education after a family.
But you don't hear about those. You don't hear about those behind-the-scene things when he takes care of a family that lost their firefighter husband.
Right.